Clock, I will call this regular city council meeting on Tuesday, August 25th to order. If you will rise, I'll lead some invocation followed by the pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you've given us. Thank you for the many blessings you continue to give us. Be with all those that are sick and hurting. Be with our citizens and our emergency officials and keep them safe. Lead, guide, and direct us and forgive us where we fail you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Janine, is there any public comments?
No, sir.
Mitch, is there any introduction of new employees?
Nope.
Next, we'll consider and approve minutes from the July 28th meeting. If there are no corrections, can we get a motion to approve the minutes as read?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as read. Second.
Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Ben. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Next, we'll consider and approve the monthly departmental reports. If you have a question, please identify the page.
I'd like to point out I brought you another report for our code enforcement report. I apologize. I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting before, but it must have just went right over my head that this thing's messed up and we need to do a better job. So hopefully I'll try a better format in front of you. If you notice the two yellow cells there, those are the things we don't track right now. You know, when they see animal at large, or if one person calls another part and says the dog is over here. So we're going to start tracking that, because that's a lot of traffic that we're not even showing on that other report. So hopefully I'll kind of split this up in meaningful parts to if you can follow it, and I can slice and dice this however you want me to, but hopefully this is a little better than what you've been getting in the past. And again, I apologize, it's not a very good report. It's not very good to look at. So
Well, the one that's very nice. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Page 8, it's for the chief. See that we're still doing canine training, we're paying for that. Is the canine doing much lately, or?
We're trying, making stops, assisting DPS, and doing interdiction wherever we can. On 84, we just haven't had very much production out of it.
How's Officer Williams doing?
Doing good. He's 5'8", maybe 110 soaking wet, but he's all elbows and feet. He gets into a fight.
Was he the one that was involved in that incident?
Yes, sir.
How's he doing from that?
He's all right. He was the one that was picked up by the car the farthest, but he's doing okay.
Any other questions on the departmental reports? None, can we get a motion to approve the departmental reports?
I make a motion that we approve the departmental reports.
Second.
Motion's been made by Buddy, seconded by Kenny. If there's no further questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, the motion carried. We'll skip the budget till Michael gets here. Next, we'll consider and approve the resolution of the City Council of Littlefield amending the resolution 20200128, polling locations and dates. Mitch or Janine, can you fill this in?
I'm gonna let Janine carry it.
You have a new version that was sent to me after 5 yesterday. So I corrected the resolution that was already been amended, and now it's got, for the moment, the correct election dates and location.
moved it to the Ag Center.
Yeah, that's where the county clerk finally decided where it was gonna be for early voting and at the Ag Center. And then, like Janine said, for now, because as of yesterday, or I think there was a new lawsuit filed against the governor's actions in extending the early voting timeframe. So right now, we have it set as allowed right now. If they make quick action on that, we could theoretically, because they expanded it by a week for early voting. So stay tuned. If anything changes, we'll
Next month, you may have another
bring
resolution.
you
to
back
change
another
that.
resolution to change that. So it's a little bit interesting.
Was that the only change made to this, the dates and times and the location to the resolution?
Yes. Well, the dates and times were already, well, in April, we postponed it till November. Then in November, the time frame is a little bit different than the May time frame, so we had to use those dates. The election judge is different because the people who were going to be the election judge have already committed to the county. So I had to change the election judge. We have to change the location, and we have to extend the dates. And we're going to end up having to hire more people to work, since it will be out there for nearly 3 weeks.
I'd like to say Janine's done a fantastic job with that. She took the bull by the horns and got us where we need to be, and it's a lot of stress, but she handled it very well.
No, I didn't, but thank you.
Good stuff.
No other questions about the resolution? If we get a motion approving?
One question I had here on section 2. Polls, let's make sure this is right. Polls are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the election day, right?
Yes, sir.
Does that mean at City Hall at 301 XIP Drive, you will have that open as well down there?
Yes, sir. I have mandatory office hours.
So you're open that whole day?
Yes.
While we're voting?
Yes.
Okay, so that day, though, election will be held here, right?
No.
No.
It will be at
Ag
Ag
Center
Center.
too? Okay, so the early voting's out there and then the whole election's out there as well?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just for the mail ballots that can be returned in person. Yeah. it's another
Very
one of those.
confusing.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay.
Well, they're trying to allow any possible
Yeah.
means that someone
Can
can
vote.
return a ballot.
Yeah.
No, in the early voting is at the Ag Center, right?
Yes.
Early voting and regular voting is at the Ag Center. So that's what throws everything off in the city elections, because typically we have the city elections here.
But in November, municipalities are required to use county polling places.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great.
Cool. I'm sure people will come to City Hall and you'll just say,
Go to the
"Get on
Ag
out to the
Center.
Ag Center to do your voting."
That's right. That's what we
It's got to
do.
be changed too, the last section 9, unless I'm reading this wrong, section 9A says to host the early voting location in Lane County Courthouse at 106 Drive. So
Oh,
needs to
yeah,
be
that
updated
will
as
be.
well.
Yep.
To be at the 195
That's
17th
right.
Street.
So you could still, you can, in the motion, you could still vote to approve this resolution with that amendment on it. We changed the location on the other, in section 1, but didn't get it in section 9.
And probably on the Spanish version too.
Right.
Section. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve this resolution with the changes to the address of the early voting location in section 9 to be corrected at Lane County Ag Center, 1095 East 17th Street.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made by Ben, seconded by Buddy. We approve the resolution with the changes to section 9. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next, we will consider and approve a wastewater farm lease. Mitch?
I've got Roy Thompson here, thanks Roy, and a little memo there kind of explains it. I mean, I don't know that we need to fix anything that's not broke. Roy is wanting to continue this. He's offered to increase the alfalfa lease by $25. We've looked at the markets and feel this is a fair deal. And recommend approval, Roy.
I don't have anything to say, and I'll answer any questions anybody has.
The equipment, I saw in here that the city's supposed to maintain the equipment. Have we been having any issues? Have we had any cost of repairs out there? I don't know if we've ever talked about that.
Well, that's a good question. Really, the old system's getting kind of old, so probably be a good candidate for a grant from the PDA in the coming years. Probably a really good thing to look for.
I maintain everything about the sprinkler with the exception of the structure of it. And we've only had one issue through the years with that. A gooseneck up at the pivot point broke off due to corrosion because it's the only piece on the pivot that's not galvanized. And it cost the city, I don't know, $1,600–1,700 to fix that. Another time it fell down because the ball joints were not correct. And they had a recall on it, but no one had ever contacted anybody. So I contacted Don Moore, and I said, Don, how are we supposed to get anything warranted if nobody tells us? He said, that's a good point. He said, I tell you what, we'll replace, I think he said 9 through 17 for free, but we're going to do the inside. And I said, well, whatever you want to do, but I said, we need to get it back up and running. And then in the meantime, Ricky Smith over at Olton, he said, Roy, I'm going to pay for the rest of it, but we're going to fix it all. And so they put 17 new ball joints in there, and it didn't cost the city or me, either one, a penny.
Good.
And I thought that was real good of Valley to do that. That's the only two issues we've ever had.
Roy's really taking ownership of this thing, which makes a really good situation for us with the TCQ, because there's a lot of regulations on this farm and the disposal of our effluent. And experience really counts on this.
Well, you know, the first year I had this city farm, I lost money because I didn't know really how to handle sewer water with a pivot. And there was a man over in Lubbock by the name of Frank Gray that operated the Lubbock sewer system. And I spent a lot of hours talking with him, and he gave me a lot of strategic advice. And the next year I made a profit, and I think I've only lost money 1 year since then. And it was a dry year like this one, and I feel like I'll lose money this time. But anyway, it's just kind of you roll the dice when you farm, you know. Good Lord above has to help someone.
So this is for a 10-year lease. Is that normal for this type of operation? I don't remember what the other one was. When did they
I
stop?
think it's been a 10 years.
Better go through with the TCQ.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That it has to go as long as the permit.
This is the third lease, and the other two were for 10 years also.
As long as we're compliant, everything looks good with that. I don't think we're approving this. Lease.
Motion's been made by Ben, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Ben, seconded by Kenny. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Next we'll have an update regarding the notice of intent issue. We'll just wait on Michael for that. Let's go to 14, consider CRS COVID-19 report.
Last meeting, I asked you to give you a kind of rundown of where we are at and everything. And Michael could not be here, he planned to be here, but some things came up. So Mike's got a little spreadsheet here he provided us to show where we're at, and then bottom line, 204,916 is what we've applied for. Plus, I've applied for another 20,000 reimbursement for the airport. And went and added another sheet behind that that has a little bit of a description on those expenses, kind of a breakdown of all the things that have been turned in. And when it says payroll, Monica, that's payroll over and above what our regular payroll is.
Yes, sir, I believe that was backfill on, when we had people out on 17th, so backfill on that. Is that right, Chief?
Yeah, we're just throwing everything we can there to get all the money we can back from the federal government on this. Welcome, any questions?
So when it's a payroll deal, it goes back to the city budget for expensing that payroll item, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have kind of a big budget amendment on this, and Andrew's preparing that for next month to cover all of the ins and outs on this schedule here.
Page 101.
Like I say, Michael's done a great job, and Jay's done a great job on this work. Just really tearing into it.
Questions on this report? Not, there's no action, right? It's just a consideration.
This is just a report, and I don't know if you have any questions here, but needs no action right now.
Any questions before we move on? Next, we will consider a resolution 15, consider a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littlefield approving a negotiated settlement between Axum and Atmos Energy Corp. Mitch?
This is just another one of the things we need to do as regulatory authority on this. We're one of 11 cities that are on this particular area for regulation. Littlefield's one of the cities, which doesn't really make a big difference in this instance, but if you ever hear the term rate review mechanism, that's a good thing. If you hear the term GRIP, that's one thing to always want to stay away from, because the GRIP in a way is allowing the utility to raise their rate according to the capital investments without much of a checks and balances. I remember back when we put the rate review mechanism in there, and it was a very good thing that happened. It kept a lot of things in check without costing the customers a lot of money for legal fees for a lot of rate cases. So this stuff is in and out of the PUC, and you know, the lawyers fight over this stuff all the time. And, you know, we've got Freddie Herrera's been the attorney on this for a long time. They watch this stuff really close for us, and they go back for us on the rates. And, you know, it makes just a little bit of difference, but, you know, we just have to stay after it with the regulatory part of this. So I recommend we approve this resolution.
Questions or motion?
I'll make a motion we accept the resolution. Resolution of the City of Littlefield for action.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Michael, seconded by Kenny. Is there any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. We'll go on, finish this page up. Number 12, update regarding the notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation and proposal to adopt an ordinance authorizing the issuance of certificates of obligation.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this was something that we needed to take no action on, and this one,
But it is table, correct?
table it, and that, yeah, I think that's right, we're supposed to table it.
No, it's just an update. It'll be discussed at a different meeting.
So can you explain the reason for, so when do we do this, in September 22nd? Everything's on track?
Yeah, everything's on track. One of the items is we'll need to call a special meeting in the agenda for, but we put in there the 14th. I'm waiting for an answer back from Brad Angst, and he said if we needed to move it to the 15th, he said that would be fine if we needed to. So that's another item, but my understanding is it's kind of a place marker that we had in here to just update public on our intention to do the ordinance there on September 22nd.
Any other questions about that item? If not, we'll move on to 13, call a special city council meeting for September 14th, 2020 regarding proposals for the aquatic center.
Yeah, this is just to basically get our numbers. Our deadline is the 10th for the RFPs, and that's going to give us a little time to study those and make a recommendation to the council on the number. But we can't authorize to start for it yet until the bond. We have to do that a little bit later, and we're set to start construction on, or authorized to start, if everything goes right, very first part of October. So it'll be, I'm trying to remember what we're going to do. I don't have my schedule in front of me, but the next council meeting will be some action on it. But right now is, have our plans finished, the engineering's finished, and I'll put the setbacks on the paper if we can look at it. 600 pages of specs, 73 pages of plans, so I'm gonna send it, an electronic copy to everybody. Just don't hit print unless you, a lot of paper ache, but, kind of where we're at on that. So, Kenny had said something about, being out of town on that time. Is that?
I'm gonna be out of town on the 14th, I won't be able to the 15th.
Is it date specific?
I asked Brad, and Brad said we can move it to the 15th, that means, and a new meeting, I guess.
Maybe with it being such a heavy item, we want to do it in the evening to give the public a chance to come if they do want to come. I would recommend an evening meeting.
Okay.
Should it be in Vernon?
I'm gonna move it to the 15th.
15th at 6 p.m., if that's okay with everybody.
That'll be good.
We need a motion, or you good with that? We get a motion to September 15th, 6 p.m.
Make a motion to call a special city council meeting for September 15th at 6 p.m. regarding the proposal for the aquatic center.
Been made by Kenny.
One second.
Second by Michael.
Right, with that.
Buddy. Seconded by Buddy. Is there any further discussion? None. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. We'll go back now, finish up our last two items. First, back to number 8, we'll have a public hearing regarding the approval of the budget for fiscal year 2020 through 2021. This time I'll close this regular city council meeting and open a public hearing. If you have a comment, please approach the diocese, give your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. The floor is now open. If no one wishes to speak, I will now close this public hearing and reopen the regular city council meeting. At this time, we'll move on to 9, consider and approve an ordinance approving the budget for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020, and ending September 30th, 2021, and making appropriations for each department, project account, and debt, and declaring an emergency. Mitch?
Got a memo there in front of you, it's a different packet. Hopefully I'll address the items that we discussed last time. If I left anything out, I apologize. Andrew and I worked on this and we feel like we this is a good representation of our spending plan for next year. And you know, this is your budget, so time for you to do whatever you want to with it. And we'd like to get the thing approved at this meeting, so you can approve it with whatever changes that y'all decide to do.
So the new bottom line is $58,800.
Yes.
Thank y'all for all your work on this budget. Getting a lot done with a little. Is there any questions or concerns or changes before we approve?
I had one on page 46. Me and Mitch kind of talked about it yesterday. I think he's worked real hard this year with all the COVID stuff about trying to get him a little bit more money, especially since a good part of that salary can be paid with COVID money. Mitch said something about maybe doing an overtime budget for him.
Yeah, we talked, a buddy came to me and said, you know, what can we do a bonus? And I said, well, you really, in the public sector, it's really difficult to do a bonus because of fair labor standards and stuff. So I mentioned, you know, if you want to do this and you want it to be something that goes, you know, year to year, depending on what things you have come up, what disasters or whatever, if you have to work extra or something, you could do it as an overtime line item, and you could just put it in there. And, you know, it'd be something that I would be approving year to year on a case-by-case basis, you know, where he's having to work a lot of extra hours on something that's in the emergency management capacity. You know, he works a lot with the EMS, and there's a lot to that, but as emergency management, you know, I mean, if that's your wish, that's the way to accomplish it. If you want to do it outside of just giving a flat raise that's from now on.
Is that what you think, buddy, is a one-time?
Yeah, that way we wouldn't have to do a salary increase. That way next year, if there's no COVID or any other disaster, it goes back to the regular $7,600 a year.
You could work with it within an overtime line item to compensate him for a lot of extra time.
Yeah, that's really not the only way to do that. You know, you really can't do a bonus. I mean, not in the public sector.
How's he able to, I guess he works for EMS right now also, right? Full time. So how do you coordinate, how do you separate the different, and how does he keep track of the time that he spends on each job? Because he may be at the EMS station working on things that are emergency management type stuff at the same time as being on.
You know, that's a great question, and I don't know the answer. I mean, a lot of these things overlap, and, you know, it's just a flat thing that we do in emergency management. You know, he gets this amount of money for doing what he does, but it's not like you have to carve out that part because he does his EMS stuff too. And I don't have a good answer for you on that. I just know that it, I've done a similar situation to this in other towns, and it's acceptable, the way it works. And
Part of the history being on this is, Mike Harris Mendez set this up, best I remember, I don't know what year, it was either way at the beginning of my term or before that, but it was a way to, it was a need to do some of these emergency management things and the hazard mitigation plans and all of that, well, we didn't have storm sirens at that time, but it was also brought out as a subsidy, basically, to MJ to help. He's paid by EMS, but it was to help bolster his salary and give him some more opportunities to grow his salary, to keep him interested here, because he was a pretty well-trained, hot commodity. And so to keep from, I think, with what I know about it, to keep from losing him was to give him some opportunity to earn some more money. And so how much time he spends, it comes out to about $500 a month, I think. How much time he spends on it, I have no idea.
Well, what I'm getting at is that if we have a person who works for EMS and is also an emergency management person, why wouldn't we just put that, kind of combine that, it's hard, combine that role into a person in the EMS department? Do we have to have it separated because of our statutes of the charter or anything, or is it a state law? Because it makes it difficult if you have a person who's getting paid for one job and then getting an additional, whatever we call this. And I think isn't there a law where you can't have the same two jobs in a city?
Well, certain situations, I don't think emergency management is one that has it. Because he's really filling, there's an emergency manager coordinator for the city. Again, I'm not sure how you have it all set up, but doing it this way of just adding on, you could just add, because I agree that it would be harder, I think, to kind of track, put an overtime budget, because we don't know what hours they're treating. You may just, I'm glad you've done it, just a lump sum, maybe an easier way to just
Well, then it
provide a little additional
It does
compensation.
create a budget for emergency management, like for storm siren and upkeep, and it does keep those charges from getting blended into EMS or fire department or PD or something. So, I mean, it's a good budgeting tool to have it separated. I mean, that's one thing you need to look at is the total compensation. I think MJ is very talented and very sought after, and I think that's part of why this duty was given to him, was to try to keep his pay competitive, to keep him around, and then in the future, as people retire and are restructured and stuff, I would expect his role would increase, and this emergency management may be absorbed by fire department or EMS or PD or somebody else at that time, but it was just kind of I think, set up as a kind of a temporary deal to keep him growing and motivated to stick around and he's good at it. So, but he does a hazard mitigation every 3 years. I think it's a 3-year plan. He runs the storm sirens. Goliath, a few years ago, he did some work with FEMA. So.
A lot of his duties with this is grant writing, and he's really good at getting money for it. It's a good thing. Well, we could, I might be a little late in the game to try to rehash that this year, but it's certainly, we can look at maybe combining it with a department. It's distinctly different than the EMS, really, the emergency management, but in a lot of ways it's the same. So I don't know if it would fit best in that. I've had it, the emergency management under fire department before. It's kind of really how we want to do it, how y'all direct me to do it. But so far it's worked good, it's been well worth it. I mean, as far as the money MJ brought in with his extracurriculars with emergency management.
Buddy, I don't disagree with you. He's worked a lot this year now. Has he been overcompensated some years? Possibly. He has definitely earned it this year. If you want to do that, I would just like to not see it be perpetual forever and ever.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, a bonus. don't know how finances are gonna work with the
Yeah.
city, but
Yeah, Mitch is right, you can't really do bonuses.
that's way, just a one-time deal, not a salary.
It would just be, like you've got it here structured as a one-time salary increase for this year, would be the way to,
But then next year, will we be able to decrease that salary back from 9,600 to 7,600?
yeah. Certainly.
As long as nobody forgets to do that.
Well, so right now, we're showing,
Jay will remind us of that.
No, I don't think you'll mind you.
right now it shows the salaries being 7,200, but then on that request it shows 7,600, which is right.
It says 76 here to 96.
Yeah, showing 72. What is his position at DMS? Is it the assistant director? Or is it-
No, sir, he is one of our lead paramedics, crew
Paramedic.
chief, and our training officer.
Okay.
That's one thing to keep in mind too, if you mess with the emergency management salary, it does potentially get him higher paid than the assistant director that's been there for a long time.
He's already over that by now, with DMS, with the emergency management. So, add it to it. But, yeah, I'll grab the additional.
Salary 72.
Yeah, I think we got it here.
So which one's correct? I would
Let's look on the.
What's the budget actually say?
Page 68, it shows it to 72 here.
The budget on the line item itself for that department, what page is that? You see what I'm Yeah, it does show 7,200, but he asked for that. Maybe that's just a line number.
This number, right?
It's on page 27.
This would be my
I think MJ was off on his request,
Yeah.
it's 72.
Yeah.
So it'd be, it'd be 92. Right, this is about where you-
How would y'all like to handle that item? Somebody wants to make a motion on how to handle that or not make a motion and vote on it and move on.
I like to make a motion, we increase it by 2,000. However, that needs to be done
This fiscal year?
just this year. One time.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Buddy, seconded by Jim, that we increase the emergency management salary for, by $2,000 for 1 year only. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. So Mitch, you can make that adjustment to $9,200 for 1 year.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I was reading this deal the other day. On the front page, under public works, the last paragraph about contracting the sweeper.
Yeah, I just threw that in there. I've been talking to a company in Lubbock that can sweep for $150 an hour. I mean, that's not an action item on today's meeting, but, I mean, that's something we could do as an option to we can get our sweeper running. I mean, it's been a real issue for us, and Lance has been working on it nonstop, and, I know y'all are anxious to get that done, and we're gonna look at several ways. I know they've started digging out with our skid steer to get ready for a sweeper to come. We've got one, there's a company gonna demonstrate that a new machine for us tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly on the time yet, but we're just looking at every possibility we can to get back on the sweeping schedule.
It's an interesting idea of the renting or having this guy do it. You told me earlier the useful life for a street sweeper is about 5 years, and then they get kind of junky. You know, if a new street sweeper is 200,000, which we expect a new one would be higher, you know, out of that $150 per hour between labor and diesel, you would figure that piece of equipment's costing about $100 an hour. We could pay this guy over 5 years about 2,000 hours worth, and, you know, maybe have him sweep it once a quarter and then use ours to hit some problem spots. And, you know, maybe a cheaper, if there's such a piece of junk as it sounds like they are, maybe a better idea just to pay somebody to do that.
I've never met a street sweeper machine I liked. They're all maintenance hogs, junk. They just don't work right.
Where's that gonna be in the budget then on page 29 or Public Works Department? Can we pay him? Do we have that in there already, or is that?
No, I don't, and that's the reason I haven't done it, is, you know, if we do that, we'll be looking at a budget amendment. And frankly, I just don't like the idea of amending the budget for something that's not on fire or leaking or bleeding, you know, so.
Could we put a little bit in contractual services to try this deal out and see for next year's budget?
It's not a problem at all, we could put, I figured up, I think Lance said it took about 2 weeks to get across the town, so that's,
Now, do they maybe have better sweepers than do? They can do it faster than we can?
they definitely know what they're doing more than we do.
Maybe we could do
This
it,
guy's been doing this since '82, I've known him.
maybe he could just give us a quote to do it the whole city for a certain amount each time.
Yeah, I asked him for that, but I think he's a little weary committing to that.
Yeah.
He's smarter than that. But, you know, if we put, say, $10,000 or something in there for next year, we could contract that out for most of the town and
Most of the
see how it
sweeping-
works.
Most of the sweeping's done in the summer, kind of early spring, summer,
Here in rains and stuff.
you know.
The challenge with West Texas is your street sweepers are sweeping dirt and dust, and it's so hard on those machines that dust. Now, if it's just leaves and trash, that's easy, you just sweep it up and go. But this part of the world, you get the silt from the sand that washes off the yards, that blows in, and it's a challenge.
If it takes 2 weeks, that's about 80 hours, so, you know, 100 hours would be $15,000 that we could put in there to try it once or twice.
I can sure do that.
And then
Put
see
in there
if
some
it's
trackable.
viable option. Is everybody like that idea? I make a motion, we add $15,000 from the bottom line to contractual services and public works.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's made by Eric, seconded by Ben. All, Buddy, I'm sorry. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just, I think what would help out too, I know y'all are stretching pretty thin, but you get that tractor going, getting the high spots where the sound goes up.
Yeah, that's what they're working on.
Yeah.
They got the little skid steer digging it out.
Yeah, if we could hit those spots, I think it'd kind of help him out a little bit.
Yeah, you go too long and it gets so much dust in there, you just gotta dig it out and then sweep it. But
Streets are
you
dirty.
can sweep it, we were talking today about maybe, renting a broom. You know, the broom like they use,
Power broom?
the big sweeper guys, and sweep it out of the gutter and then pick it up with the skid steer.
You can rent them for your skid steer, yeah. They're not very
Yeah.
expensive. They're not even very expensive to buy.
Oh, you can rent an attachment?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a deal like that and also get one of those grinder things. Maybe we could get one of these this next year.
Might be something to look at.
Motion before us is $15,000 in contractual services and public work. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Any other questions or discussion? If none, if y'all are ready to approve the budget, we get a motion to approve it with those.
1 second before we go on, I just remembered the police vehicle. What's the status of the police vehicle?
Sir?
What's the status of that police vehicle that was in a wreck?
It's fixable.
Fixable,
I just need to find out what TML, what their adjuster said on it, as far as the estimate and all that.
That's all.
It is fixable.
Very good. Entertain a motion to approve the 2020-2021 budget.
I'll make a motion.
Motion's made by Michael.
Second.
Seconded by Kenny. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Yeah,